Okay, so in the until the last class, we had looked at the different physical structures within the female reproductive system, starting from ovary, fallopian tubes to the cervix and the vagina or vulva structure. And of course, we had looked at the different glands and more specifically in terms of the mammary gland and its internal structure. Now we are going to go into the major aspect of the process of fertilization. But before that, these gametes have to be formed. So that particular process is known as gametogenesis. So it is the process of formation of haploid gametes from the diploid germ cells. Now, in case of male, these germ cells, like they can be called commonly in male as well as female as germ cells, but we can call them like testicular germ cells, and in female we can call them ovarian germ cells, just to be very specific. But together we can call them germ cells. So this process of formation of the haploid gametes from a diploid germ cell is in the gonads for the process of sexual reproduction is known as gametogenesis. Genesis means something like new to be synthesized or generated. That is genesis. These gametes, they are haploid, and as far as I know, they are the only haploid cells within our body, which contains only half number of chromosome found in the somatic nuclei. So if the somatic nuclei or the somatic cells, if they have 46 chromosome, these gametes will have only 23 chromosomes, and that's why they are special. And gametogenesis is of two types, obviously one for male and one for female. So in male, it is known as the spermatogenesis, that is the formation of the sperm in the testis, and the oogenesis, that is formation of ova in the ovary structure. Both of these processes, whether it's a spermatogenesis or oogenesis, they have common three phases, though they happen with different types of cell. Like sperm will develop from a different cell, which is still called germ cell, and in ovary it will still be a germ cell, but it will also undergo the same three phases, and they are multiplication phase, growth phase, and the maturation phase. So in multiplication phase, primary germ cells, they will multiply by the process of mitosis. And this is just to keep the number of these germ cells intact. So in future as and when it is required to synthesize these gametes, these germ cells, they are ready to do so. And that is why multiplication phase is very, very important. And I will explain more about this in the subsequent slides. In case of growth phase, the germ cells, they increase in size. Now again, this increase in size is with respect to the type of cell division that they are going to undergo throughout these phases. And that is why there is some requirement for the growth phase where the size of these germ cells will be increased. And the third type of phase, that is maturation phase. In this, the germ cells, they undergo the meiosis to produce the haploid gametes, and this is the last stage where the actual haploid gametes are formed, and then they are further matured in terms of the final out product, that is the sperm or the ova in case of male and female respectively. So these are the three phases. These are the two types of gametogenesis. Moving forward with respect to the spermatogenesis. This was gametogenesis. This was the overall process. Now we are going to look at the specific gamete formation process within the male individuals. So spermatogenesis can be defined as the formation of the haploid spermatozoa, or you can also call it sperm, from a diploid spermatogonia, that is the sperm mother cell. These are the actual sperms, and these are the sperm mother cell. Mother cell again literally does not refer to the gender of the cell, but it is just the originator of the spermatozoa or the sperm. That is why they are called as sperm mother cell. It is also called as spermatogonia. Gonia is again the earlier version of the cell. So the earlier version of the sperm cell. So that is what is gametogenesis in case of male, that is spermatogenesis. So formation of haploid sperm from a diploid spermatogonia or sperm mother cell, that is spermatogenesis. In case of male, this spermatogenesis process will start during the puberty, and we will see how it is different in case of female, which is a very interesting fact rather in females, which starts in the developmental stages of the embryo itself and not at the puberty. So in case of sperm, they start the process, rather the gonads, they will start the process of spermatogenesis during the puberty, which is at the age of 13 to 14 years of the age of that particular individual, male individual, and continues throughout the life. Now, throughout the life does not mean it happens even in the old ages. It does happen to some extent in some individuals, but it surely declines after the 60 years of age. And again, that 60 is an average. In some male individual, it might decline starting at 55 or so. In some, it might start after 65 or so. So it depends. But the average like age, which that's when the spermatogenesis stops happening, is sometime uh, around the age of 55 to 60. These sperm cells, they are continuously being produced by the testes. It is not that a particular phase of the like, let's say like of the particular developmental stages of the testes or of the gonads in the males, that is not the dictator of the production of the sperm cells. At each and every stage during the after the puberty, the sperm cells, they are being produced, but not all the areas of the seminiferous tubules will produce the sperms at the same time. That means, let's say we already know that testis, it has different compartments, and these compartments, they have seminiferous tubules. Now some part of seminiferous tubule within the same compartment will produce the sperm cell, and the other part will not produce for the time being. Then that's how it keeps on going in a cyclic manner, that not all the areas of the seminiferous tubules will produce the sperm cell at the same time. But the sperm production, it continuously happening within the testis. And again, obviously there is no need of formation of the sperm by the seminiferous tubules at all the time, from all the areas of the seminiferous tubule, and that is why it is not designed in a such a way. One immature germ cell takes as long as 74 days to reach to the final maturation stage. So let's say starting from the germ cell stage to the final maturation stage, that is what we call as a sperm after maturing, or spermatozoa, that takes almost 75 days. Now it can be a little shorter, but approximately again as long as 74 days. So it can go up to 74 days. And during this growth process, there are quite many intermittent resting phases. Like again, there are markers within the testis which defines, like let's say there are enough spermatozoa inside the testis, and of course there are enough which are stored with the semen in the ejaculatory duct or in the vas deferens structure. Then the testis will get a signal not to produce any more of the sperm, and that is what is this intermittent resting phases, depending on how much of the sperm is already present in the testis. And it also is a cell. Sperm is also a cell, so obviously it will have a certain lifetime. I'm not sure of that lifetime as of now, but I guess it comes somewhere in this slides. If not, I will search it later. So after the death of the sperm, then of course they will get replaced and so on. So that is the way it happens. So one immature germ cell takes as long as 74 days to reach final maturation. And during this growth process, there are intermittent resting phases so that the testis would know that there are enough sperms present already in the testis and it need not produce them more. Spermatogenesis occurs in seminiferous tubules of the testis. This we already know and includes three major events, which is formation of spermatid, formation of spermatozoa, which is called as spermiogenesis. In some textbooks or some reference book, you can also find this process being known as spermatogenesis. We will see those differences later. And the third stage, that is release of mature spermatozoa, which is known as spermiation. Now again, there are too many words with starting with sperm. It's sperm, spermatid, spermatozoa, spermiogenesis, spermiation, spermatogenesis, and so on. So there are like several terms. So be aware of which term to use when. So looking at the first stage of the spermatogenesis, it is completed again in three phases. So in case of spermatogenesis, we have these three stages, and the first stage is divided into further three stages. Yeah, so that is how the distinction is. So formation of spermatid, that is the you can call it as a baby sperm, just a colloquial language, not a scientific term. Yeah, spermatid is kind of a baby sperm, you can say. That is like you know that sperm will mature in the vas deferens further as and when it travels towards the ejaculatory duct. Mature as in completely functional sperm. Maturation has already happened otherwise in terms of structural development. So formation of spermatid is divided into three phases, that is multiplication phase, growth phase, and maturation phase. In the first phase of the formation of spermatid, that is multiplication phase, there are undifferentiated germ cells which arise by the mitotic division of the primordial germ cells. Now, these are nothing but your germinal epithelium, right? In case of, I don't know if I have this diagram here. Yeah. So, this is the testis. One testis, one compartment, one seminiferous tubule that has been enlarged, and a part of seminiferous tubule is enlarged here. And these cells, I assume these green cells would be the what you call as germinal epithelium, though they have not labeled it, but that is my wild guess because that's where the seminiferous tubules, they always have a lining of germinal epithelial around at the periphery. So that's why my assumption goes here. And again, I'm not too sure of this, but let's assume these are the germinal epithelium, or they are also called as primordial germ cell. Primordial because they are primitive in terms of sperm formation. So that is primordial germ cell. They are short form as PGCs, and they are part of the germinal epithelium, or you can just say these are the cells present in this layer of the seminiferous tubule, and that lines the seminiferous tubule, of course. They divide by mitosis to form a diploid spermatogonia and a sperm mother cell. Now, this primordial germ cell will give rise to two different types of cell after mitosis. That is diploid spermatogonia and the sperm mother cell. Now, this spermatogonia is just like they again divide mitotically to produce number of spermatogonia, which are of two types. And we'll see the description. But before that, these spermatogonia as well as the sperm mother cell, they are diploid. That means they should have 44 plus XY chromosome. That should be the number, that is 46 chromosome. And again, it is mitosis division, so they have to be identical to the primordial germ cells. So primordial germ cells divide mitotically, forming two different types of cell. Structurally they are same, but one goes for separate process, and the so diploid spermatogonia will go for separate process and sperm mother cell will go for separate process, and that's why they are named differently. Otherwise they are exact copies of the primordial germ cells. They are no more different. Okay, I hope this part is clear, because though we call them differently here, they are same to your primordial germ cells. Now these spermatogonia and the sperm mother cells, they further divide mitotically to produce number of spermatogonia. Again, depends on how many mitosis divisions has happened. Let's say if it is one division, then it will still create 4 spermatogonia cells, which are of 2 types. These are called as type A and type B. Type A usually serve as a stem cell which divides from additional spermatogonia. And type B, it will form, these are the precursors for this sperm, that means they form this sperm. Now let me go back to diagram and explain this part. Let's assume this green cell is the primordial germ cells. It will divide mitotically, it will form spermatogonia and sperm mother cell, which will further divide mitotically to form certain number of these spermatogonia cells or sperm mother cells. Now it will form 2 separate, now because it is mitotic division, it will always have similarity or identical nature with the parent cell or with the mother cell, that is primordial germ cell. Now the moment they are identical, they can always become the part of the original germinal epithelium. Let's say this cell has gone out and it has divided into 2 cell and then 4 cell and so on by mitosis division. One of them will come back and become a part of this germinal epithelium again, so that it is taking over the place of the original primordial germ cell, or the place of the cell from the original germinal epithelium, so that the germinal epithelium has sufficient number of cells to produce the sperm at the end. Otherwise, imagine this cell getting differentiated and forming by the mitosis division, forming 2 or different cells, and then going further, then these cells number will reduce over the time, the germinal epithelial cells or the primordial germ cells. So to not let it happen, what this brilliant system does is, one of the spermatogonia cell, that is type A spermatogonia, will come back and become a stem cell, that is become the part of the germinal epithelium, so that it can again further go through the same process from the primordial germ cell to spermatogonia and sperm mother cell and so on further. So that is how the process work. Is this part clear, or are there any doubt?
Yeah, sir.
Crucial
It's a
step.
little confusing, so I'll just go through it. Tell me if I'm right. So the germ cell, it divides into 2, the spermatogonia and the sperm mother cell.
Correct.
And the sperm mother cell will go replace the germinal this thing. And then the diploid spermatogonia will again divide, and it can form either type A or type B spermatogonia.
Correct. So if the confusion comes because we are separating the names here itself, if we just call them let's say spermatogonia cells, yeah, like forget the sperm mother cell, obviously they will be sperm mother cell because they are producing sperm at the end. If we just call them spermatogonia, then it becomes more clear. Primordial germ cells forming spermatogonia, which divide further mitotically, forming type A or type B spermatogonia. I guess this makes it more simpler, correct?
Yeah.
So you can say that way also, it doesn't really matter. And you can at the end say the type B spermatogonia, because they are precursor to sperm cells, they are actually the sperm mother cell. Yeah, if that is convenient for you, you can say that, because there is no difference as such in these type of cell. And the reason I'm saying this, because it is a mitosis division. You know the characteristics of mitosis, it forms the identical daughter cells with the parent cell. So if they are identical, there has to be no difference in terms of chromosome and also in terms of structure. This is not a differentiation process. It is a mere mitotic division process. Yeah. So until type A and type B, they all are structurally and functionally similar cells. It just one category of the cell will become these stem cells, that is to divide to form the additional spermatogonia, and type B will go in the formation of the sperm. So these are not returning cells. These type A, they are kind of returning cells. Returning in the sense, they will again divide mitotically, and again they will form, some of them will form what do you say, type A and type B. Yeah, because they are going to the stem cell stage. I hope this part is clear as well. So type A will serve as stem cells. Stem cells is nothing but the primitive type of cells, and you know the quality of the stem cells, they can give rise to that particular structure. Like let's say in this case, it is talking about the primordial germ cells. So stem cells will be similar to your primordial germ cells in this case. And type B, these will form the sperm. So they move towards the lumen of the seminiferous tubule. Lumen is towards the center of the seminiferous tubule. This is the lumen part, kind of orangish or yeah, light faint color. So this is the lumen. So they, as soon as this type B spermatogonia they are formed, they will move towards the lumen of the seminiferous tubule and enter the growth phase. That is the second phase in the formation of spermatids, and they are called as spermatocytes. Yeah. So these spermatogonia cells, when they enter, there is a certain amount of differentiation as in terms of characteristics of the cell, functional characteristic, they change a bit in terms of what they have to develop further, and they are called as spermatocytes. The formation of spermatocytes from spermatogonia is called as spermatocytogenesis. Now again, one more additional term. So if you put them separately together in like if you are making a flow chart, this will make it more clear. So as and when we discuss about it, try to make a flow chart, so it will be more like clear and easier for you to understand whole of this process. So again, type B spermatogonia, it will move towards the lumen and it will enter a growth phase. And during this growth phase, before this entering into the growth phase, it has differentiated from spermatogonia to spermatocyte, right? That is a little different stage, and this process is known as spermatocytogenesis. Because it is forming spermatocyte, its genesis, that is spermatocytogenesis. Okay, so that is the type B spermatogonia and the process of spermatocytogenesis. Now the second phase in the formation of spermatid, that is the again a baby sperm, if I can call it so. Spermatocytes, they grow in size. Now whatever was developed from spermatogonia into spermatocyte will grow in size. It will accumulate nutrients and replicate the DNA, and these are termed as primary spermatocyte. Again, nothing else has changed in terms of division except the size, except the accumulation of nutrient and the replication of DNA that has happened, because now this cell is going to undergo division process in the next phase. So that's why this is kind of interphase of the cell cycle, that is spermatogonia to spermatocyte to primary spermatocyte. Yeah, that is the first that is the second growth phase of the formation of spermatid after the multiplication phase. Multiplication, they are just multiplying mitotically and forming different cells up to spermatocyte. In growth phase, from spermatocyte to primary spermatocyte. Now, these are about double the size of spermatogonia. Now, of course, they have grown in size, but how much growth has happened? That is double the size of the original spermatogonia cell. And I guess that is also kind of visible in these diagrams, though not in this diagram it is visible. But if you look at where is the spermatogonia, here it is. And oh, here also, yeah, you can see it here. Like the size of this cell is not exactly double of these, but it is quite like sufficiently bigger than the spermatogonium cells. This is spermatogonia or spermatogonium in singular, and these are the primary spermatocyte. So that is how they are different in terms of size with respect to the spermatogonium. I have other diagrams also, but they don't really show this. Yeah. Okay, fine. So that was the growth phase where primary spermatocytes are formed. Now, in the third stage, within the formation of spermatid, that is maturation phase, each of these primary spermatocyte will undergo the first maturation division. And this is a reduction division. Reduction division is meiosis ultimately, and it is called as maturation division because the primary spermatocyte to the final formation of the sperm, that is a maturation process, and that's why it is called as maturation division. Otherwise it is a meiosis or it is a reduction division. So by the reduction division, two haploid daughter cells are formed, one with 22 plus X and the other with 22 plus Y number of chromosomes. Obviously, the X and Y will separate in the formation of the gametes, and that will cause the like this formation of 22 plus X or 22 plus Y number of chromosomes. This is the first reduction division. And these are called as secondary spermatocyte. So from primary spermatocyte in the growth phase, they will enter into the maturation phase, and the first maturation division will happen, will form the secondary spermatocyte. These will undergo secondary maturation division, that is the second stage of meiosis, which is more of mitotic like phases, right? And I hope you remember the processes of cell cycle. What is mitosis and what are the phases of the meiosis, right? Meiosis 1 was the reduction division. Meiosis 2 was the mitotic division, right? That means the number of chromosome remains same. That's where the only the number of cells is duplicated. So secondary spermatocyte, they will undergo the secondary maturation division, and they form the 4 daughter cells, which is known as the spermatids. So that is the completion of the first stage, that is formation of the spermatid. And from each of the spermatocyte, or you can say from each of the spermatogonia, that is one of the spermatogonia, you will get 4 spermatids. Okay, is this part clear or is it still confusing? Because there are so many terms, it becomes difficult to understand like just in terms of names, but process wise, they should be very clear in your head. Again, if I have to draw a flow chart of this, I will write primordial germ cells of germinal epithelium. Then they will form the spermatogonia cells. I am not separating them into now sperm, mother cell and spermatogonia. I will just say spermatogonia from in the second stage, which divide further mitotically to form type A spermatogonia and type B spermatogonia. Again, it is a pool of cell. Just because of their fate, they are called type A or type B. Otherwise, they will still be same copies of each other. Okay. Type A spermatogonia will form the stem cell. Stem cell as in, it will go back to its primordial germ cell stage. That is what is the stem cell nature of this type A spermatogonia. Type B will form the precursor for the sperm, that is the spermatocytes. And these spermatocytes, they will grow in the next stage. They will accumulate nutrient, they will replicate the DNA. That will be called as primary spermatocyte. Primary spermatocyte develops by meiotic division further or reduction division into two haploid daughter cell. From diploid to haploid, it is the maturation phase or the maturation division, or the first meiotic division, you can say. That's where the secondary spermatocytes are generated, which again undergo the second stage of meiosis, that is the similar to mitosis, and it will form the 4 daughter cell, and these are known as spermatids. Any question here? Again, this is one of the very important topics of the chapter. So if you have any questions, please get it clear here itself. Okay, if there are no questions, then can we move forward? And also, like I said, please write it in a flow chart manner, so it is easier for you to remember all of this. So this was the formation of spermatid. Again, I will go back. We had just looked at the one part in the process of spermatogenesis, that is formation of spermatid, which had 3 phases. What was the first phase? I forgot. Multiplication phase, growth phase, and the maturation phase. So formation of spermatid has multiplication, growth, and maturation, and then spermatids are formed. Then they will enter into the next stage, that is formation of spermatozoa, or which is also called as spermiogenesis. So formation of spermatozoa or sperm. So now transformation of radially symmetrical spermatids. Now the spermatids, they are radially symmetrical. That means they are more like a sphere. So they are radially symmetrical into the polarized spermatozoa. Polarized because the arrangement of the proteins within the spermatid changes. So let's say, I had mentioned sometime earlier in classes that the sides of the cells, they are decided by the fate of the proteins which are present in it, right? There are always polarity proteins which are present inside the cell, and they decide which side is front or back or top or bottom or left or right side based on the proteins present. So that way, these spermatids, which are originally symmetrical, they will turn into polarized. That means the arrangement of the protein will change, and certain proteins will arrange on a certain sides of the spermatozoa, so that the head and tail can be differentiated in the later stages. So that is the polarized spermatozoa, and this is called as spermiogenesis, or it is also called as spermateliosis. Now again, one more addition of the term, which is similar with the phrase of the sperm, that is spermiogenesis. So formation of polarized spermatozoa from the spermatid structure is known as spermiogenesis process. Now there are several changes which occurs during these stages. First is nucleus shrinks. The nucleus in the earlier case was a little bigger. So where is these are the spermatids. Now here they have not shown really the changes in the stages, but if you look at the overall size of the nucleus which would be present in this cell compared to this cell is obviously different, and that is why the size of the nucleus is reduced, or nucleus will shrink in the spermatozoa or the primary spermatozoa, polarized spermatozoa. Acrosome is formed from the Golgi body of the spermatid. Now obviously this polarized spermatozoa was a regular cell or is a regular cell, and it will have Golgi bodies. From those Golgi bodies, it will form an acrosome structure. Acrosome is nothing but a pointy arrowhead-like structure at the front part of the spermatid structure. So this part, the pointy edge-like structure that you see now here they are directly showing mature sperm. That is not the case. There are certain stages like we are seeing now. Yeah, here maybe you can see those structures. So this is the acrosome like structure that is getting formed slowly. So here it starts, here it kind of completes. So this is what we are currently talking about. This is the non-polarized kind of roundish cell, or even you can call this as the cell, and then it is getting polarized further and it is forming this arrow-like structure at the end. So that's how from radially symmetrical cell to the polarized spermatozoa changes happen. And also if you look at this, the nucleus size is getting reduced over the time. Like from here to let's say here or even here, the size has reduced. So that's what it means by this spermiogenesis process. So nucleus shrinks, acrosome is formed from the Golgi bodies of the spermatid. We will see the function of this acrosome. It is required for the penetration into the egg. We'll see that part in the later stage in the structure of the sperm. The axial filament. Axial filament is along the axis of the sperm. There is a kind of microtubule structure. Like it's again literally a protein structure of the sperm tail is formed from the distal centriole of the spermatid. Again, there is a centriole structure within the spermatid. So this brown thing, so these were the centrioles which are present in the cell. They will get arranged next to the nucleus. From there, this axial filament will begin to form, right? So from the distal centriole, that is distal is towards the lower side of the sperm, this axial filament structure will start forming, and that is what is being mentioned here. So the axial filament of the sperm tail, ultimately this structure is going to form a sperm tail, which you can see elongated here in a quite huge manner. So that part is formed from the distal centriole of the spermatid. The mitochondrial spiral, now the mitochondria arranged in a spiral fashion, right? Nothing different. That is what is called as mitochondrial spiral. In case of regular cell, it is located next to the nucleus in just a capsule-like structure. But in case of sperm, it is arranged in a spiral fashion, and obviously it is formed from the mitochondria. This sheath is known as the Nebenkern. Nebenkern is a kind of a German name, and that particular structure where mitochondria is spirally arranging next to the nucleus around like this tail or the axial filament, that is called as Nebenkern. So if you look at this, these are the mitochondrial structures, right? They are getting arranged in now here it is not showing a spiral manner as such, but if you look at the end, if it is like a circular ladder around the tail, like a rope is being tied around a thin string or so. So that is how they are arranged at the end. So that is the mitochondrial spiral, which is around the axial filament or the on the tail portion of the spermatid. I hope you are getting clarity of all this structure, and there are too many terminologies, but we really can't help with it. We have to know all of them. So mitochondrial spiral structure is known as the Nebenkern. That whole sheath is known as Nebenkern. That is, the mitochondria wrap around each other to form a spherical aggregate. Spherical aggregate is a ring-like structure in a spiral manner. Adjacent to nucleus, the Nebenkern proceeds to elongate into double-stranded helical structure. Double-stranded helical structure is like it goes around in two strands around the axial filament, and that is what is Nebenken or the mitochondrial spiral. Any question here so far? We will see these structures again when we look at the structure of the spermatozoa. But in case of the formation of spermatozoa, these are the phases or these are the changes which occurs into the polarized spermatozoa when it is transferring or when it is converting from spermatid to spermatozoa. These are the changes which happens. Pratham, any question? Mr. Pratham, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so no question, fine. So that was the formation of spermatozoa, which continues further. Much of the cytoplasm of the spermatid is lost. Now, this is simplest logical step. Now, imagine if there is a lot of cytoplasm and if it continues to be present in the sperm, the movement of the sperm will be kind of restricted because it is little heavier than how it has to be originally. And that is why the mitochondrial sperm, if you look at this, excess of cytoplasm is being lost over the time. So this was the amount of cytoplasm. Because there is quite a lot of duplication of mitochondria, the cytoplasmic space increases, and at the end it accumulates at one end of the spermatid structure, and it eventually is lost from the sperm or spermatozoa. So the remaining cytoplasm forms a thin sheath around the mitochondrial spiral as and when this is formed, and this sheath is known as mansheet or mansheet in short. So going back, this mitochondrial spiral is Nebenken, and this sheath, now again this is two-dimensional, but ideally this cytoplasm will be in all the sides around the mitochondrial spiral as well as the axial filament around the tail. So that sheath of cytoplasm is called as mansheet. So this sheath is known as mansheet, which is the temporary collar sheath. Collar is like below the head of us, we have a collar of our clothes, right? Something like that. Below the head of the sperm, there is this collar sheath present around the spermatozoa structure, and that serves for guiding the shape of developing the head. Now, this is again a differentiation process, that is a cell differentiation process. When something else is accumulating towards the one side of the cell, that means the cell has to grow on the other side. That is the like a very layman's terminology, and that I can talk in terms of cell differentiation. That is, cytoplasm is accumulating below the head portion of the sperm, so that the sperm knows that the head portion has to be grown or differentiated in a certain way, so that there is no disturbance or no interference from the cytoplasm as such. It generally covers the head, neck, and the middle piece and the tail. So that means it covers ultimately whole of this. So it becomes thin over the time. Lost doesn't mean it loses like a piece. Yeah, lost as in whatever molecules are there inside the cytoplasm, they are broken down, they are metabolized, they are released outside the cell, and the cytoplasm becomes thin. So like you see, from this stage to this stage, it has become thinner and it covers almost whole of the tail, this middle piece, and the head and the neck portion. Neck is this junction between head and the rest of the part. So that is the neck. So all these parts, they are getting covered by this thin sheath of cytoplasm. Spermatids, like after they are like develop into this stage, they differentiate into sperm with the help of spermiogenic factors. Now again, these are some of the proteins and of course the action of the hormones, specifically the male hormones, they will differentiate into the final structure of the sperm. Like this is still whatever we had got here in terms of the polarized spermatozoa, that is in the for spermiogenesis process, that is still not a complete sperm. The maturation has to happen in terms of the function inside the cell, in terms of the enzymes and proteins and so on. So that differentiation of these will happen with the help of spermiogenic factors, which are more like proteins and the hormones, and they are produced by the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells present within the your seminiferous tubules. And during the differentiation process, developing sperm or spermatid have their heads embedded in the Sertoli cell. And that is why, because the Sertoli cells, they provide the spermiogenic factors, until the final maturation of the spermatids, they are embedded into the Sertoli cells, so that the spermiogenic factors can be easily provided to the spermatozoa, which are being differentiate. Yeah, and also they obtain their nourishment. So what it means is, let's say before this part is formed completely, it is still embedded or it is still enclosed within the Sertoli cell. And then at the final stage, it is being released into the lumen of the seminiferous tubule. So that is the second stage, that is formation of spermatozoa. So again, going back to this format, first was the formation of spermatid from your primordial germ cells. Then from spermatid to spermatozoa, that is spermiogenesis process, which happens again in the seminiferous tubules, and you get the final spermatozoa structure, and their maturation and everything happens by the spermiogenic or spermiogenic factors in the Sertoli cells of the seminiferous tubules, and then they are about to be released. Again, you can go through these diagrams. There are several diagrams I have pointed which labels these stages in a specific way. This means like primary spermatocyte and secondary spermatocytes, then spermatid, and then spermatozoa. So these are the stages. So the last stage, that is the spermiation. Again, I'll go back here. The release or maturation of the matured spermatozoa is spermiation. That is the last stage in the spermiogenesis. That is spermiation. So spermiation, the mature spermatozoa or the sperms, they are released from the Sertoli cell. The head was embedded in the Sertoli cell. After that, spermiogenic factors are released by Sertoli cell, the head will be completely formed. Then in the spermiation phase, the sperms will be released from the Sertoli cells into the lumen of the seminiferous tubules prior to their passage to epididymis. So before they travel to the epididymis structure, and that is called as spermiation. So just release from Sertoli cell to the lumen, that is spermiation. Now the release cell do not obtain nourishment from them as in, now once they are released, they do not have any nutrition from the Sertoli cell, because now they have less of cytoplasm, and of course then ultimately less of energy, because they have to conserve their energy for the fertilization process. So they do not obtain their nourishment from the Sertoli cells anymore, and they are able to swim by themselves. Because of their tail-like structure, they are able to swim on their own, and of course they are present in the seminal fluid, so that they are easily carried in the fluid structure towards the epididymis, which is the storage organ for the sperm. Okay, any doubt here so far in the whole process? So this is again another diagram showing the testis, lobules, seminiferous tubule, a section of it is being enlarged here. These are the Sertoli cells. When the sperms they are formed, or spermatozoa, they are embedded in this, and once they are released into the lumen, which is here a white portion. And then from there, all of them, they go to the rete testis, which is a mesh of network. From there, they travel to the epididymis, which is on top of the testis. And from there, it enters vas deferens and so on. So that is the journey. Any question, anyone? Please make a flow chart for your own understanding, so you don't have to get any confusion at any time point later. Okay. How much time do we have? 5 minutes. I guess we can try to finish this part, or at least some part of it. Anyway, we will continue. So, structure of spermatozoa. That is the final matured sperm structure. These are solitary cells. That means they don't exist in the tissue-like network. Tissues are usually a group of cells with similar function. Now, sperms, though they all have same function, they are not grouped. They are solitary cells. That means they move as a single cell. And they are specialized for the movement and reaching the ovum for fertilization. Obviously, that is the final aim. A usual sperm will consist of head, neck, middle piece, and a tail. Or tail is also called as flagella or flagellum because it's a single. So flagellum. Head, it is almost conical and formed of acrosome and a nucleus enclosed in a thin membrane. So both of these, acrosome and nucleus structure, they are enclosed in a thin plasma membrane. Ultimately, it's an animal cell, so it will have plasma membrane. So these two structure, acrosome and the nucleus, they are enclosed in the plasma membrane structure. So this, again, if you look at this diagram, now it is not pointing. So because it is showing that it is not completely what you say, what you like know as, it is not completely differentiated into this acrosomal structure. Though here it says front view and side view, this does not mean it is the front view of the same chromosomal structure. Ideally, yes, it should be the same, but the diagram doesn't say so. Yeah, so don't get confused by these two what you say, representations of the sperm. If you want to look, just look in this diagram. This is the nucleus part, this is the acrosome part, which is like kind of pointy end on sitting on the top of the nucleus, and it is enclosed by the plasma membrane. So that is acrosome, and we will see what is the function of the acrosome. And this is the nucleus part, and of course nucleus part will have its own nuclear membrane and so on. That is like a regular eukaryotic cell. We need not see that part here again. So that is the acrosome and nucleus enclosed by plasma membrane. Acrosome, it forms the cap at the anterior end of the nucleus. That is, it is sitting on the top, so it forms a cap-like structure on the anterior end. It is formed of the Golgi complex, like we had mentioned earlier. Golgi bodies, these are nothing but the protein structure, and they will form this acrosome structure, is filled with tissue dissolving enzyme. So there is a specific dissolving enzyme. I guess it is hyaluronidase. Hyaluronidase is the special enzyme which has the ability to dissolve the cell membrane. Yeah, that is the plasma membrane. It has this ability, and that particular enzyme is present in the acrosome. It is synthesized and then it is stored in the acrosome structure. So as and when the sperm reaches the ova structure, this acrosome will break open. It will release the tissue dissolving enzyme, that is hyaluronidase, and that will dissolve the tissue of the egg membrane, and then it can enter towards the cytoplasm and further for the nuclear fusion. That is the fertilization process. So that is the function of the acrosome. So the major function of acrosome is the synthesis and the storage of the tissue dissolving enzyme called hyaluronidase, so that it will help the sperm to penetrate through the egg membrane and enter the egg cytoplasm. So that is acrosome at the anterior end. Then the sperm nucleus, or you can simply call it nucleus, contains obviously densely packed DNA and protein, and the DNA is present in the quiescent state. Quiescent state because it doesn't have any function as of now until it reaches to the stage of fertilization. You already know now that this formation of sperm might take almost like 76 days or so. So that is quite a long period. And during that stage, there is no function of DNA as such. That is only it's in terms of differentiation. So until that sperm is formed, or even after sperm is formed and is stored in the epididymis, the DNA has to be in the quiescent stage. That is non-functional stage, but it is active as and when the requirement is there. So that is the sperm nucleus. I guess we can take a break here. Next class, we can continue from the neck portion of the sperm. So this is what we had seen so far as a head portion. This is your acrosome, nucleus, nuclear membrane, plasma membrane. And this is where the neck portion is, and then we'll continue from there. Again, this is the very simplified diagram, which does not show plasma membrane as such, but does not mean it is not there. It will always be there because it's a animal cell. So this is just the simplified version of the sperm and so on. Okay, any question so far?